Not here yet. Oh dear.
Colleagues, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Hello, hello.
Two minutes to go, colleagues, according to my time. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm just trying to see where Jabu, her presenter, is.
Okay.
If she doesn't connect, we're going to have to repair to our rather bad recording. Oh, hang on, she's trying now.
Okay.
Jabu, what's up? Are you trying to get in? Are you on the right link? Just try again. Try the other link here. Sorry, everybody. I think Jabu's just waiting to get into something, but she might have used the wrong link.
Okay, okay. Oh, she's the one who's going to start.
I'm going to start, but she's going to show her presentation. Otherwise, you're going to have to show the one we recorded.
Direct her where to go. Did you direct her where to go so that she should not waste time?
Yeah, let me just hang on a second. She wants me to send the link I used. It's all right.
Oh. Colleagues, good afternoon. Please be aware that the recording has already started for this meeting because it's controlled centrally due to some technical challenges that some of us have.
Well, maybe while Job is trying to connect, I could just, shall I just introduce what we're going to be talking about? Would that help?
Let's agree. Maybe let's give it 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Just speak to her. Maybe the quickest way is to go to the program. She doesn't have the program.
She does, and I've sent her the link to that again. She said she got sent another link, and I think that's what the problem's been.
Okay,
Any
I've
luck?
got the link, Linda.
Try now again. They're waiting for another couple of minutes for you. Otherwise, we're on recording.
Okay. Oh, gosh.
Don't panic. It's fine.
I know. I'm just opening the link now. Oh.
Colleagues, may we mute our mics? Linda, are you winning?
She said she was clicking the link. Did you? You know what I think, Chair, maybe the best bet is just play our recording, and we can answer.
Do you have?
Well, I have a copy of the presentation, but Jabu and I recorded and sent it through to Arlene on last week. Are you in, Jobs?
Linda?
Yes. No luck.
Hi, Linda.
Yes.
Okay, Linda, you know what?
Okay, Linda. Hello.
Sorry, Chair, she's just in the program now.
Okay, okay.
No, she's been trying for longer than me to get in. It's just that we're not all that brilliant at this kind of technology. I apologize.
Okay, then it says conference website.
Conference website. Oh no, that's no good. Okay. Can you play, Chair, would you be able to play our recording, please?
Up also, it's messing me up. I did not.
Oh, you're not ready for that?
For the recording, yes. So, okay, what we can do, Linda, just start and I will send a WhatsApp quickly here, introducing yourself. I prefer presenter to introduce their topic and themselves. And if there are co-presenters, also introduce your co-presenter. And colleagues, as I have alluded, the meeting is being recorded. And then, because this is the last presentation, we have encroached in some of your time, but I will count it 20 minutes, maybe 5 minutes for questions. So over to you, Linda, while I attend to the issue of recording. Thank you.
Okay. Apologies. She's on hold, Chair. Just you might, I don't know if she's trying to get in. She says JT on hold.
Okay, just.
But in the meantime, let me just tell you what this is about.
Sorry, Linda, who is it Jongi Wetabakana?
My co-presenter is Jabu Mthembu Dlamini.
Oh, I thought it's Jongi. Thank you. You may.
She in? No. No luck. Okay. So what we wanted to share with you this afternoon, and hopefully our slides will come up, is an intervention in Kumasi, in two of the poorest wards of Kumasi district, called Leave No Young Child Behind, where we actually tried in a practical action research way to make integrated programming work. And as one of the stakeholders in the process said, the role of the project was to ensure that the ECD policy comes alive. Excuse me, Mo, is there, shall I try and share my just the PowerPoint, or are you going to be able to get
you can share the PowerPoint. I'm still communicating with
I'm so sorry, everybody, this is awful. So I've got sharing permission. Okay, where is my shared window?
We were able to see your sharing document. Yes, we are able to see.
Okay, and here's the slide view. All right. Sorry, let's go. I'm hoping Jabu will be able to join us because she was the manager of this whole project and can really give good examples of what happened. So that's Kumasi. It's right up in the corner. It borders on Mozambique, Eswatini, and the Kruger National Park. And why this project was conceptualized is that national policy talks to the need for integration. And also the need for development partners, NPOs, and business to work together. And very much describe a ladder of different levels of working together, from networking, coordination, right through to collaboration. And when one collaborates, one's actually planning jointly and working on services together. And the reason for the value of this is that it allows children and families to access services more efficiently. There are quite a lot of potential savings for service delivery. It provides an interesting impetus and multiplier effect. It's one of the things we'll talk about is it creates a lot of buy-in on the importance of ECD and incentivizes investment on the one hand by different partners in the area, but also stimulates demand for services. And there isn't a single model for delivering integrated ECD. In fact, to have something that is simply sort of an administrative integration is not necessarily going to work as well as a well-targeted, coordinated, cross-sectoral and multi-professional initiative. So the evidence base for this is that one of the things that works really well is to bring non-state services within regulatory systems, which we have, but promoting integration by including your non-state actors in national and local coordination along with your government officials. Some of the other factors that have been found in the evidence base to help would be high-level political endorsement, and having the ECD policy and the NDP has given us that helpful thing here. Having an institutional anchor to engage different sectors and to overcome turf issues, we'll come back to that a lot. Involving stakeholders from a number of sectors. Engaging local government, particularly to ensure ownership and sustainability. Supporting participatory approach, in other words, really getting everyone to buy in. And then another very, very key point is ensuring adequate funding to support effective implementation and also coordination. So public-private partnerships have been found in a number of countries to be able to expand services because they can leverage resources and expertise, such as providing funding, implementation support, training, curriculum, and technical assistance. So this is the Kumasi case study, and Jabu, if you do come on, please chip in. So the overarching objective was for us to get a significant improvement in the well-being of young children from conception to school-going age in these two very poor wards in Kumasi through mobilizing the community and really providing access to the comprehensive package of quality services. So we wanted to see how can you make this work at a local level. And these are the various components of the intervention. There's quite a lot written about this if anyone wants to know the detail at some point. Maternal and child health was part, early learning stimulation, supporting parents and caregivers, child protection, support for infrastructure and services, and then really building on the collaboration and partnerships. So this is how it worked. First of all, a steering committee was set up at provincial level of the Department of Social Development, co-chairing with RCL Foods or the Dumore Foundation. Dumore Foundation with RCL Foods have a big presence in the Kumasi area as a big employer in the sugar industry. which also gave them a lot of leverage with the community. And then Department of Education, Department of Health, and so forth, also on that meeting. But the real powerhouse was this technical committee, which was based in the district and met monthly. And that included not only the key government departments, including different parts, for example, of health, like maternal and child health, but also the Nutrition Directorate and the ward-based outreach teams, Home Affairs, SASSA, the NDA was active in the area, COGTA, who was in charge of the Community Works Program, the municipality, community development workers, environmental health practitioners, Lima, I'll come back to their role in a minute, and then the Do More Foundation. And so a lot of the implementation support for this team that was brought together was provided by the Do More Foundation or RCL Foods in the district, and Lima, who really had an on-the-ground presence that could go and move things along. And then to support all the legs of the implementation, and you'll recognize that all of those legs are things that we find in the National Integrated Policy, was a very strong communications campaign and keeping things up to date. So how did the collaboration work? And why we think it's so important to tell the story is because you cannot just think that saying it's got to be integrated is going to make it work. So first of all, we had sorry, I can't read the screen because it's covered up by my sharing. Okay, so what was really, really important was to have a memorandum of understanding, of an actual legal agreement between the key departments, social development, health, education, and the company. And that played an enormously important role in keeping things on track. The Provincial Steering Committee developed a business plan and a very strong M&E framework to report developments and outcomes. Then the local technical committee was extremely inclusive, as we've been shown in the evidence base is very important. And then on the ground management for coordination and mobilizing stakeholders, that was a role that Lima played. And then we were able to also bring in other stakeholders with expertise of different kinds to inform the strategy, but also to leverage additional resources. So the evaluation that I undertook on behalf of them involved a number of focus groups, a lot of individual interviews, but also, as well as the interviews with numerous stakeholders at different levels, we also did a baseline and endline quality audit on ECD centres and play groups in the area as evidence of outcomes. And I'm not going to talk about that today, but we saw a striking improvement in quality. So what were the benefits? Well, these were quite interesting because, I mean, a lot of them were very simple. I mean, one of the things that we found is through sharing information, the different partners, including a number of government departments, got a much better understanding of the National Integrated Policy and how it works for them and what it means for their department, that their department actually has a role in it. Different roles were clarified, and there also were a number of additional human and financial resources brought in. So some of the comments were that we've been able to work together as different stakeholders and expand services to the poorest areas. I think the other big thing was creating a culture of sitting and meeting, so that, for example, this official, if they needed something from Home Affairs, they actually had a relationship with the person, and that really facilitated moving things on. How's this worked? So some of the people have said things like public-private partnership assisted in getting resources, and that was a big thing for the area. COGTA assisted with EPWP, there was cleaning, they put their workforce into digging in sand pits, Home Affairs certifying some learners for grants and so forth. and grant applications. One of the things that happens when you meet regularly is accountability is really important and smoothing relationships. As one NGO who was part of the tech committee said, they don't normally get easy access to different stakeholders, but when everyone comes together and it's convened, it really just helps a lot. And similarly, there's less duplication and resources aren't wasted, and people were assisting each other. And there were a number of practical things where they worked together. So now to what enabled things. I think first of all that having the policy was useful, but having the MOU was essential. It bound departments to coming to meetings. It also bound them to have to report on what they were achieving. Because everyone was there, because they were all working together, the private sector was able to leverage a lot of extra resources, financial and learning materials and so forth. And then the biggest contribution, and this I think is a key thing, that somebody, whenever there is an integrated process, someone's going to hold it. And there was time for reporting and management from that role, which was held by the foundation at this point. Trust between partners, and we'll talk about, on the one hand, it was an enabler, on the other hand, it was a challenge to get it to work. And then the other thing that was really useful was that everybody who was working at the kind of powerhouse tech committee was very familiar with the local context. So they knew what the issues were and they were able to respond.
Don't worry, you can continue. And yeah.
Shall I carry on? Okay, the other thing was the role of data and communication. I think meetings were a good space for networking. Sharing information was really good, well-minuted things, but also having a strong M&E framework with regular feedback and then reporting up to the Provincial Oversight Committee. So it had
Oh, you done? Thank you.
Okay. Leadership.
Okay, colleagues, can we mute our mics?
Sorry. Leadership, nurturing and oversight. So having a backbone to this, which was held in this case by the foundation, DUMO Foundation, who had a lot of status in the area, which made it easier for them. Having clear roles, the fact that actually the chair of the technical committee was not from one department or other, actually was mentioned as quite an important strength, because departments very often have turf battles and don't like to account to each other, and they have bureaucratic requirements about what level of official should talk to another. And then there was also on-the-ground support to mobilize your stakeholders and for data and logistics. So there were a number of comments they made, and one of the real sort of buy-in movers and shakers was having additional resources and then sitting down together to decide how they were going to be spent. So this really improved collaboration between the partners and maximized the way that resources were used for services in those two wards. But a comment from an official, which I think was quite general, is when it started, everyone was very anxious. But over time, the people started to get buy-in. They could see it was relevant. They could see they needed different ways to work. And one of the big learnings for us all was how very differently it works in the private sector and in government. They have different timelines and everything else. So these were discussed. I think the role that the backbone organization, the RCL Foods or the DUMO Foundation played was important, holding the center, coordinating the process, having a dedicated person to be there to make sure that people came to meetings, and also filling some gaps. So they were able to leverage money to fill capacity building gaps that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to do, including ongoing training for departmental officials and so forth. So challenges for any integrated process was that it takes time to get buy-in and accountability, that government officials are incredibly thin on the ground. There's a major challenge in all the key departments which are understaffed, and they would not have been able to sustain the process without having the backbone, organization and structure. I think there is still, one always has to recognize unequal power relations, and very important that when private partners join in and work with government, they must never be seen to be taking on government responsibility. I've already alluded to different organizational cultures. Government timelines, budget cycles, and communication protocols are very, very different than what we have in NGO and business. And then we were fortunate in the main that there wasn't staff turnover and participant turnover. One department had an almost entire staff change over the last couple of years, which meant that one had to build up accountability and buy-in and everything else all over again. So here are a few comments on some of the challenges. When it started, we had our fair share of challenges, with RCL coming from business side and not understanding our way of working. But through engagement, we reached an understanding. The fact we have the same understanding and mandate, best interests of children, that really helped. The project coordinator dedicated to provide support. No other department can do so. They have their own mandates. To put more emphasis on an area isn't possible. And then the other thing they all talked about is that they have scheduled meetings planned in advance. They stick to the dates, they don't forget them, especially at the steering committee level. And it would be difficult, and we found this over and over again in different parts when we've tried to have integrated things. If the secretariat is based in one department, it's hard for them to coordinate other departments with competing priorities and different structures. So over time, everyone came to see that it was useful. When they started, a lot of them thought, well, this is just going to be extra, didn't see any benefits, had extra meetings, but they came to realize that actually there wasn't extra work involved. It was zooming into a particular area with extra effort. So in conclusion, it's now we've tried the concept in Kumasi, it's working well. We're now trying it out in Worcester in the Western Cape and in Pongola. And the players are slightly different in those two areas, but the kind of principles behind it would be very much the same. So that, there are just some references, and then, yeah, so I can stop sharing. If I could find the button. Where is that? Here we are.
Thank you, Linda. That was wonderful. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I wish Jabu had been around because she's actually implemented this. And she
is here.
Jobs, do you want to say something quickly?
She is here.
No, not a problem, Linda. Not unless there are questions. I think you did that exceptionally well.
Okay. We will have some few questions, but I'm aware that Linda is sharing a session at 14:15. Linda, is it true? You have a session to chair at 14:15. So you are free to leave. In that case, Jabu will answer the questions that will be posed from the floor. Colleagues, it's time for questions. If you have any questions, please feel free. And you can also post your questions on the chat bot. The first person is Mastura, a guest. She has a question or he has a question. Over to you, ma'am.
Hi, thanks. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
And thank you to you and to Jabu. I've got an institutional question. I saw that there were almost two levels of people, right? There was the technical committee and then there was a committee above the technical committee. So yeah. I wanted to check, and this was kind of at a local government level. So the government officials, which level were they at?
Okay, so like you were saying, there's two layers. So we've got the provincial steering committee. which manages the district and the local level. So the technical committee is at a local level and the steering committee is at the provincial level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jabu. Any more questions? Do we still have questions? Mastura, is this a historical hand or do you have another question?
It was a historical hand. If
perhaps.
no one else is going to ask, can I ask another question?
Yes, please, you are welcome.
Okay, I wanted to know what the time period was for implementation. It seems like it was quite a long time, but so just to check.
Yes, it was a long time. So the project is actually still ongoing. So it took us about 5 years to manage to implement our phase 1. The phase 1 was happening in 2 wards and 48 ECD programs. So in year 5, we've just expanded the project to add 6 more additional wards. And I think just to add another point that Linda highlighted, that there are some certain components of this initiative that are now scalable. And this has allowed us to expand the initiative. And we're taking the scalable components of the model to other areas like in Worcester in the Western Cape and Pongola in Northern KZN.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jabu. Prof. Ibrahim, I've noted your hand and your comment. Which one do you want me to do? To read your comment or give you a chance?
Let me ask the question. Thank you, Dr. Medisa. Thank you very much for the very interesting study and showing a way of how integrated systems can work for the NIECD. What I wanted to know is that when the research was completed for the policy development, the suggestion was made that you have a coordinating agency to bring the partners together and for the rollout, the M&E and so forth. And so what are your thoughts on having such an agency? And I see in this project you had a steering committee with an outside funder. It seems to be like a more or less a similar concept, or maybe I've not understood it well. And my second question is that when you say certain parts are scalable, which specific parts from your experience in over the 5 years are actually scalable?
Okay. Okay, so can I just start with the agency? So the point you're actually raising is exactly what the senior government officials said at provincial level. You know, when we're studying the program, and they would usually bring it up in our committee meetings to say that there was once a suggestion in government to have an agency model. And they all believed that model was going to work because it was exactly what the Dumo Foundation was doing in terms of coordinating all ECD stakeholders. But they did allude to the fact that it never took off. I don't know whether I'm answering you properly. And then secondly, the components of the model that are scalable. For example, we have a technical committee. So at the technical committee level, which happens at district level, we have most government stakeholders and NGOs than at the provincial level, because at the provincial level, it's the 3 departments and the Dumo Foundation. Basically, it's the 3 main departments tasked with ECD, DOE, DSD, and Department of Health. But at local level, we've got those departments, we've got the various units in the Department of Health, we've got SASSA, we've got Home Affairs. So that technical committee works. So that is one component that we are scaling up. And then we have a Young Child Forum. In the Young Child Forum is that we have the ECD center practitioners and principals and play group leaders and ELVs. They all come the way we have monthly workshop. So that's another component that is scalable. And we've already started, you know, that in Northern KZN and in Worcester.
Just a quick comment from me. I'm very conscious that we took a long time trying to get our tech things sorted. I think one of the issues, I mean, obviously an agency would be able, if it had the clout to hold people to account, would play very much, you know, and is sort of independent and flexible. I mean, then that model would work. It just seemed that at the time that we worked on the policy, that government was unwilling to sort of invest in further structures in case they turned into sort of immobile and expensive bureaucracies. But yes, I mean, this is exactly the point. In various provinces where I've worked, you know, who's in charge, who accounts to who, the fact that the Office of the Premier doesn't have this kind of function of they monitor, but they can't really implement. So this was a kind of structure which attempted to sort of bypass all that and work with all the people on the ground.
Thank you, Prof. Hasina. In the interest of time, I will allow one person to make a comment who has indicated that she wants to respond to Prof. Hasina's question of Agency Mastura. Over to you, and then after that we'll close the session because we are already over time. Thank you.
Okay, apologies for talking so much. But just to say that Linda is right, at the time, 5 years ago, there was the proposal in the draft policy. And then in the final policy, it was my colleagues in DSD who weren't amenable to an agency. I think that we are sitting here 5 years later and we have had such little progress on the implementation of the policy. I think that my colleagues in basic education who will take over the function in April 2022 should seriously revisit this issue. And I think this study that has been presented illustrates the importance of some coordinating body to hold things together. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Tura. In the absence of further questions, I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who attended this session and to also thank our presenters for their thought-provoking presentations. I will now officially close this session. We can move to other sessions of interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.